it's Beth at Paris House Woolworks, and this video is going to be just a really quick tutorial on how to steam and adjust or kind of block a finished hooked piece. So this is a really simple process, and it's a process that a lot of my students really love when they see it for the first time, because what happens is the loops on your piece become more defined. They tighten up together. The piece looks smooth and more uniform if that's the look you're going for. And it's just a really nice way to finish a piece. I want to kind of do a caveat here, and that is that smooth uniform loops are really nice, but they are only one style of traditional rug hooking. There are plenty of styles that don't depend on uniform directional loops, and that's what I always want my beginners to know, because I want beginners not to get hung up on perfection or having their loops all exactly the same, especially right out of the chute. So if your style is a little more textured, there's nothing wrong with that. But if you are looking for that more uniform look in your rug hooking, the steaming and blocking really makes a difference in the look of the finished piece. If you have a very textural rug, you can still steam it, but I would recommend doing it as gently as possible if your goal is to have a lot of alternative materials, for example, making that textural top to the piece. So those are just a few things to know beforehand, but this is the basic technique. So what I have here is a finished piece, and what I have done is I have serged the edges off. If you're watching this video, you probably have already hooked your rug and you're looking for guidance on how to steam it. So you know that your rug hooking pattern had 3 to 4 inches of additional foundation beyond the edge of the design. And so what you need to do for most finishing techniques is just cut the excess off. And what I do is I leave just about the width of my serger sewing machine foot. It's like 3/4 of an inch. You could leave an inch around the edge, and I secure it. Like I said, this is a serge stitch with an overlock or serging machine, but not everybody has an overlock machine, which is absolutely fine. You can also use a zigzag stitch with your regular sewing machine and zigzag around twice, about an inch from your design, and then cut around the exterior of the zigzag. This is just to hold the foundation from raveling, because if it starts to ravel, it can ravel into your loops and undo your work. So you don't want that. This is a good thing to do if you're putting on a whip stitch binding, a twill tape binding, which we'll also be doing a video for, making it into a pillow, things like that. If you are framing your piece, then, especially if you're having it professionally framed, I would talk to the framer and ask them how much linen they would like left on. I recently had a piece professionally framed, and I left all of it on so that the framer could be the judge of how much was required to put it around the backing board that she was using to frame it. So it just depends on what you're doing with it, but this is kind of a rule of thumb for most basic binding techniques. Okay, so I just have, I'll tilt the camera down. I'll show you the simple equipment that we have for this. There's my piece. It's lying on a towel. I have an iron plugged in and set to the wool setting. And then I have, and you can just use your sink. This is strictly for demonstration purposes, but I have a small hand towel in water, and I'm wringing out as much water as possible tea towels or dish towels also work really nicely for this purpose. In fact, this towel is really thick, so I want to get as much out of it as I can. I'm just wringing this out. And what I'm going to do is I've got my hooked piece here. I'm going to just lay this damp towel over the top. And I'm going to start just tamping it with the iron. I'm not going to do this. This has a tendency to move your loops around, squash textural elements. You don't want to do that. You just want to do this. And you can see, you can definitely hear the steam rising off the piece. I am not pushing very hard. In fact, I'm not pushing at all. I'm just kind of letting the weight of the iron down. Because again, I don't want to squash my piece. I just want to steam the loops. And I'm making sure that I get the whole piece. If I had something in this piece that was really textural, like maybe a needle felted area, well, although I usually add my needle felting after I've done this, but if I had really poofy sari silk or something like that, I might actually steam around that bit and just steam the wool parts. Or if I was hooking with roving and it was very textural, I don't think I would steam that very hard where I had it poofy. If you do have something like that and it gets a little squashed in this process, there are ways to kind of pick it up. So when you're working, you may need to re-wet your towel. Just, you can kind of be the judge of that. But now I have my rug hook. And I have my little snip scissors, and I've got like the end of them. And what you can do at this point, there are two things you can do, because now the piece is hot, it's been under the steam, it's kind of pliable at this point. So what you can do is, if your piece is a little out of square, you can work on that. You can work on your straight lines by kind of pulling gently where you want it to be. You can also take the tip of your hook, and if there's a place that just needs a little tweaking, you can get your hook in there. I'll do it left-handed so you can see a little better. You can just kind of get your hook in there and clean up your line a little bit. You can also do that with the tip of a scissors. I have an area here that is sari silk, and if I want that kind of just plumped up a little bit, I can take my hook and just give it a little scratch with the back side of the hook, not the hook side, and kind of make that stand up a little more. So there's a lot of tweaking you can do as well. If you have hooked letters, or you have hooked something very precise and somehow it's just a little out, while the piece is hot and steamed, that's a great place to kind of tweak it into shape with the sharp end of your tools. Now, the other thing that I do is I flip the piece over. This is a good time to look at your piece and make sure there's nothing on the back that shouldn't be there. There shouldn't be any tails on the back. Again, that's my personal opinion. I know artists who do leave their tails on the back. I like mine all on the front. But I give it a little bit of steaming on the back too. So I'm just going to put this towel back over. This one is still damp enough. If it weren't, you could just re-wet it. And again, just light. Don't press it. Don't rub it like this. Just very light steaming. Okay, I'm going to take that off again. Now the back is steamed, the front is steamed, and the other thing that steaming does, which is really nice, is you can see how nice and flat this is laying now. A lot of rug hookers, especially beginning rug hookers, they do what we call packing. They pack the loops. So even if you're not packing, sometimes the hooked piece can sort of curl on itself, and a lot of beginners get pretty upset about that. You know, they're like, "Oh my God, it's curling! It's not laying flat. It'll never lay on the wall or the trivet or whatever." And you don't really have to worry about that either, because this process here is going to flatten your piece out very nicely. If your piece is heavily curled, just make sure that when you lay it down, here I'll show you with this piece, if this were curled, you would just want to make sure that you paid special attention to the edges and corners, and that when you went and did your steaming, I'll just give you a little demonstration. When you went and did your steaming, you paid special attention to the corners maybe first, and really got it to lay flat in the corners, and then go to the center and start working your way back out again. That's how I've done it when I've had a piece that's a little bit curled. So again, steaming is a wonderful, wonderful miracle technique. It should really be done to most rugs. There are exceptions in rug hooking. There are exceptions to everything. There is no one right way to do anything. There's always about 10 ways to do anything or more. But this is the way I do it, and it's worked really well for me. A couple of notes. If you have a really, really large piece, you know, most of our pieces, most of the people I know hook pieces that are, you know, this size or small floor rugs even, or even down to little pieces. The times that I have completed large rugs, like 3x5, 4x6, what I have done is either laid the rug out on this entire center island that we're working on, which is about 3.5 by 5.5, or I have used an ironing board. And when you do that, you just do the rug in sections, you know, especially with an ironing board. You just lay the rug, lay the first edge on the ironing board, steam, 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 go to the next section. I like to overlap sections that I've already done a little bit so that I don't miss any sections. But just do the rug in sections and it'll be absolutely fine. It'll take a while, but it will, you know, it will get done. And I think that's it. If you have any questions on this technique, pop them into the comment thread, and I will do my best to answer them. Or you can always get hold of me at info at Paris with 2 R's, info at parishousewoolworks.com or parishousewoolworks@gmail.com. So I hope this was helpful, and I'll see you another time for another video.